Hey there, welcome back. So today we will check the wildcards in generics. In order to save some time, we have added the project. We also have this app class. So let's get started. And in order to understand the wildcards in generic, we would require a couple of more classes. So let's add a new class in our file. The name of the class would be like vehicle, and that's it. Now inside the vehicle, we will add one private property, and it would be like vehicle ID maybe. And this would be of type int. Alright, so this looks good to me, and let's create a constructor for the same. So I will navigate to source and create a constructor using vehicle ID. Then I will again right click, navigate to source and create the getters for the class. And finally we will also create the toString method. Alright, so this is the usual stuff. Moving forward, we would be creating a yet another class. So this would be a yet another class. The name of the class would be car, and this will extend vehicle. Alright, and inside this car, we will have a yet another private property. It would be like car model, and the type would be string. So car model would be the name of the property, and it would be of type string. And now let's right click, navigate to source, and let's create constructor using field. And as we are extending from vehicle class, we need to also initialize vehicle ID, and the information would be passed to the super method, and in turn we would be initializing the constructor. So definitely the object of car is dependent on vehicle class as well, because car is a child of vehicle class. Alright, so this is one thing. Moving forward, let us again create the getter for the class and the toString for the class. So pretty good stuff, right? Now friends, moving forward, let's create one list of vehicle type. Let me hit couple of enters, and inside this class app, first of all we would require the main method. So in order to add the main method, I will simply type in main and hit control plus space and hit enter. So here is our main method, and inside the main method we would be adding a list. So let me hit enter, and here would be a list. The list would be of a vehicle. Here we go. The name of the list would be list, and we will initialize using array list maybe. Alright, so this is good. And now finally let us add in couple of elements. Before that, we need to also import the required packages. So I will type in list dot add, and we need to add in a object of vehicle type. So we will type in new vehicle, and vehicle ID would be, for example, 10 to get start with. And let me copy this couple of times. Alright, so the next vehicle ID would be maybe 11, then 12, and then 13. So this is good, right? Alright, so now let me add in a yet another method. The return type would be void, the name would be display, and let me also mark this method as public static method. Now the advantage of a static method is that we can call this without creating an object. Alright, so now in here inside this display method we will receive a list. Now friends, there is a catch. Vehicle is a parent class for car, and suppose a list can contain a object of vehicle. It could be a car object, it could be a vehicle object. So we don't know exact which type of object we will receive. So we will make use of a wildcard character, which is question mark. We don't know whether we will receive an object of vehicle type or a car type or some other type. So we will simply type in list of question mark. We don't know the type yet. The name would be list again. So this looks good to me. And now let us make use of a for each. Now if we don't know what is the type of the object, then definitely we need to make use of the mother of all objects, which is object. So we will type in object element maybe colon list, and we will simply print out the information which we will receive. So let me output element. Alright, so this looks good. Do we have the toString method for vehicle? Yes, we do have it. So now we would be able to directly print the information without any issue. Let me show you. In here I can type in display, and I can pass in list, and if now I execute the program, that should be an proper output. Till now inside this list we only have the object of vehicle type. Let me now add a object of car type. So inside the add method, I will type in new car, and the vehicle ID would be like 14 and the car model would be A14. And now if I execute the program, then the output is car model A14, which is perfect, right? So we are able to add multiple type of object in a list and our program is executing properly, which is fantastic, right? And in fact, if we have, for example, object of some other type as well, if I type in list dot add, and inside this add method I type in new string. String is also a class, right? So I can create an object of string type. So I will type in new string, a string object. So this will also work for me, I suppose. Let me check. Alright, so list vehicle doesn't apply it. In here we need to add an object, then only we would be able to handle this. And now there is no issue, and now if I execute the program, here is the output, which is perfect, right? So this list is capable of storing object of any type, and this list which we are printing in our display method, the list is capable of handling any type of object, right? So in here we don't know the object, so we are making use of a question mark, which is cool, right? Now friends, moving forward, if we want to apply a restriction to be a list of vehicle type object only, and in our display method as well we would be passing in a list of vehicle type only, then how we can handle the situation? First of all, let me change the type of the list to vehicle. That's one thing which we need to do, and as soon as we do this, we won't be able to add a string object, so let's get rid of that as well. And in here we will be making use of something known as bound, upper bound and lower bound. So let's do that. In here we would be making use of upper bound. Now applying the upper bound is very simple. In here I will type in extends, and the name of the class is vehicle. Alright, so this means that the data which we will receive in this list would be either vehicle or a child class of vehicle. So whichever be the class, either it extends vehicle or vehicle, those type of information would be there inside this list only. Other than that, any other information won't be accepted in this list. Now friends, as we have applied the upper bound, means this list will be accepting object of vehicle or child object of vehicle, then definitely the usage of object is not required. We can replace this with vehicle. Definitely if we execute the program, there would be output, but we can replace this object with vehicle, which would be a better practice. So now let me replace this with vehicle, and there is no issue, and the program still works. So this is upper bound, where we apply the bond to the upper limit, and vehicle is the upper limit. If the class is vehicle or child classes of vehicle, then definitely this particular program will work perfectly, and we would be able to print the information as an list. Alright, so this is cool. Now what is the lower bound? Now friends, the lower bound would be based on the child class and not the parent class. Now in here the parent class is vehicle and the child class is car. Now we won't be applying the restriction on the parent class, rather we will apply the restriction on the child class. Definitely in the day-to-day usage, the upper bound is more useful. So in place of extend, we will type in super, and we will make use of car class, which is the child class for vehicle. And as soon as we make these changes, then this list apply that we will have at least object of car type or anything which is super class for car type. So definitely vehicle is a super class for car, object is a super class of car, and as the most super class for car could be object, then definitely we need to iterate over object. So that's again one thing. Let me make the changes, and making these changes, after that if we execute the program, here is the output and the program is working properly. This is how we can apply upper bound or lower bound. Usually upper bound is more useful. Now friends, moving forward, let me show you a couple of interesting things of the impact of this lower bound and upper bound. Alright, so in order to show you the impact, we need to do something. In here, first of all, I will type in a method, and this method would be, for example, void. The name of the method could be like info, right? very simple and easy to understand method, and in here we will display a message. The message would be vehicle ID is, and then we will call in get vehicle ID method. And moving forward, let me copy this method, and in here we will paste it, and in here we will type in car model is, and we will call in the method get car model. Alright, and we will be overriding this info method in fact. Alright, so everything looks good to me, and now if I try to execute the program, there won't be any issue, which is cool. But let me make some changes in here. First of all, let me undo the changes in the display method. First of all, I will type in extends vehicle, and in place of object we will type in vehicle, and now in place of this calling the element object directly, we will call in the method info. So I will type in element dot info. Alright, so this is cool, and now if I execute the program, then we would be able to check the output, and we need to get rid of the system.out.println real quick. So here is the output. Vehicle ID is 10, 11, 12, 13. Car model is A14, which is cool. Now the polymorphism application has been applied in here, and dynamically we are able to check and pick up the correct version of info inside this loop, which is perfect, right? So polymorphism is also working and everything is working properly. We are able to pick up the correct version of info when the object is of car type, and correct version of info where the object is of vehicle type. So everything is working properly, right? Now friends, till now we were making use of the upper bound. Let me convert this bound to a lower bound. So in place of extend, I will type in super, and in place of vehicle, let me type in car. Now as we know that every object is derived from the object class, right? Every class has a parent class as a object class, right? So object class is parent for every class, as we know. Definitely for that matter of purpose, we have to iterate over object class, right? Let me do the change, and using this change we are able to fix the issue. And moving forward, in here we are making use of the lower bound, but as soon as we make use of lower bound, we won't be able to call in the info method, and that's a restriction. Why? Because for example, we pass in a object type of object in here. Now object don't have a info method. There is no restriction on the type of object be inside this list, definitely, right? So as the restriction is of open end, definitely we won't be able to give the functionality to call in a method inside the class, and that's a restriction with the lower bound. And if we try to execute the program, there would be a crash. So whenever we would like to, for example, restrict the user to call in the method inside the class, definitely a lower bound could be used, and either cases usually the upper bound is more preferred and used. Alright, so this is it. Let me undo the changes, and before completing the session on generics, this was the last video on generics, let me give you a word of caution. Generics is still developing. There could be scenarios where you won't be able to implement generics, so don't worry. If in your application there is a requirement of implementing generics, then apply generics, and if there is no need of applying generics, skip it and make use of the usual Java code, which is perfectly alright. So this was it for generics. In our next section, we will continue with the collections framework, because there are a couple of topics which we need to cover with reference to generics in collections as well. So a lot of interesting things coming up. Thanks for watching and take care.